Hello, good evening, everyone, and welcome to today's presentation. 4 reasons why your employer wants you out and what you can do about it. The picture you have in front of you is the picture of a lynx. It's a cat that hunts alone in North America, typically found in cold areas. And the lynx is considered a wild cat and carnivore. And when you probably see this kind of cat eating up an antelope or another smaller creature, you tend to pity that small creature. But one way of thinking about it is that the creature is disadvantaged. Another way of thinking about it is that the cat must survive. So today we're talking about survival. 4 reasons why your employer wants you out and what you can do about it. My name is Kenneth Igiri and I'm a follower of the Lord Jesus. I'm married and I'm expert. I've been in IT for over 14 years. And what I'm going to tell you is gleanings from about 4 different companies which I've worked for in telecoms, in internet service provision, in banking, and one other. And these experiences, some of them I've had in close contact with top management, some I've had a little more distant from top management. And some of these experiences have helped me to try to put together what goes on in the mind of a CEO when he takes certain decisions about the staff that he's leading. I'm also a self-published author of 6 books, and I'm very much active on social media, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. So why does your employer want you out? There are 4 reasons which I will try to describe here and break down a little bit. The first is VUCA, we shall know what that means. The second is age. The third is disruption. And the fourth is liability. I have labeled these in single words and we shall see what these words mean as we go along. Now, I want you to stay tuned, pay attention closely. I believe that this is a timely presentation and it is relevant to you, especially if you are in the corporate sector. You're working for a company, big company, small company, and you are rising up that ladder of corporate growth. It's important that you pay attention to these things and try to see where the message hits you and what actions you can take about the next phase of the world, the next phase of life we are entering into in the world. So VUCA, I heard this expression from a man called Vidya Munigan. He's the CEO of a company in the African country Mauritius. And he explained VUCA. Of course, he's not the first person to explain it, but he talked about certain things that the breakdown of the acronym into the words volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. So he said volatility. We live in a world of rapid changes, unpredictable changes that are just come out of the blue. And business owners, C-level executives have to grapple with these changes and make decisions about their companies. They have to be able to balance between the costs and the revenue, the staffing, the humanity, their own humanity, and the necessities that of decisions that are put before them. They have to manage these things in the face of the rapid changes in the world that they have no control over. And related to that is uncertainty. Right now, we are battling with the aftermath of the COVID-19 virus, which entered the world or became a prominent topic in the world in December of 2019. And nobody really knows what will eventually happen, but everybody is talking about the new normal. We all know that somehow these events have dramatically changed the course of our world. Nobody knows who's going to get fired from his job. Nobody knows who's going to be asked to leave. Nobody knows what businesses will survive. Right now, I had a news flash the other day that the company Zoom is now worth more than some airline companies in the world. And we also know that a lot of hotels are asking their staff to stay at home because nobody is going anywhere to stay for nothing. We are seeing that companies are making changes around how they operate in order to survive. So we are living in a period of uncertainty. We don't know what will happen soon. And companies have to take decisions, hard decisions, in order to survive. We have a complexity. That means the factors that you have to juggle as a CEO to arrive at the correct decisions to make for your company are so many and so complicated, so diverse, that you have to be very skilled at strategy in order to pick up the right decisions and go in the right direction for your company. And ambiguity, the things are not so clear. So in this VUCA environment, which many companies are operating in, companies have to decide on whether they want to keep you in the company or whether they want to keep the company afloat. The first reason why the company may want you out in order for that company to survive. We live in a VUCA environment. Now, the next point I want to make is the point about age. A certain colleague of mine who used to work for a certain bank, I thought it wise not to name that bank, but maybe if you hear the things I'm going to say about the bank, you may know about it, or you may know about similar banks that should do similar things. There is a policy they have that when a person is over 40 years of age, they begin to prepare that person to exit the company. They begin to prepare that person psychologically. They begin to teach that person about entrepreneurship. They begin to teach that person how to invest, because they feel that from that age onwards, the person is beginning to deliver marginal returns for the company, and the person may be let go at any time. He may be let go when the company is under pressure. He may be let go for a mistake he makes. He may be let go due to some kind of restructuring. So they basically are preparing their people to leave their jobs from the age of 40. And that is their policy. The reason for that is that it is obvious that a person, as he gets older, is no longer as active, both mentally and physically. He has more responsibilities, so you can't make him travel too much, and all sorts of things that make aging a liability, in quote, for a lot of companies. It could be that you are in that bracket where you have gone beyond 40, and the kind of job you do is not a C-level job. It's not a CEO, CIO, CTO job. It's a job that you are just at a certain mid-level area, and you can be done without. Someone younger can take over your role. So a company, when they look at your profile, your age, they begin to say, look, we can get this guy out of the way and get somebody in his 30s to do this job. They may want you to go out on this premise. The second thing I want to mention is the Igbo apprenticeship system, because I think it correlates with this subject of age and a system that is sustainable over a period of time. You see, incidentally, there was a certain white man who made a research to this system. I believe he called his research the Sustainable Systems Business System of Africa. And he spoke about the fact that in the Igbo apprenticeship system, which we have known for centuries, you typically would start your business, you run it for some time, you want to expand your business, you go to your village, you pick up a boy who maybe is in his 12 years old, 13, 14, a teenage boy, and you bring him to the city to work for you. He works for you for 6 years. In the 7th year, what happens is that you give him capital to begin his business. Now, incidentally, what that means is that it's expected that nobody will be working for somebody else for more than 10 years in the ideal practice of this of this system, for more than 6 years, rather, for more than 7 years. At the seventh year, it's expected that you have learned enough in that trade to be able to run your own business, and your master gives you the opportunity to start your business by giving you capital. Excuse me. And you see, I remember the statement my pastor Koju Oyemade made about this topic, about this system, or not directly about it, but about being brought up in the village. That look, if in those days when you grew up as a man, nobody asks you for your CV. It simply give you a plot of land and say, okay, begin farming. That is how you sustain your family. You cannot say, oh, I haven't gone to business school. Oh, this excuse or that excuse. The truth is, that is how you must survive. You have to farm your land. And the amount of returns you get from your farm is dependent on the amount of work you do. You cannot be waiting every month for a salary. This leads me to the third point of 30 years too long. The typical work life of the person in the contemporary system of work is 30 years. That means you join the workforce maybe around 30. At 60, you are asked to retire. Maybe for some people, it's a little longer, a little shorter. Now, while you are working 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, what is happening is that young people are graduating from school every year, and they are also looking for the same jobs where you're sitting at. By the time you extrapolate it to 100 years, if everybody depended on a job to survive, there will never ever be enough jobs to support everyone. So there will always be a queue. So in effect, what I'm saying is that I believe that it does not make sense it's not sustainable to have a system where people are working for someone else for 30 years. There has to be a system that says at the end of 10 years or so, you choose to start a business and make room for other people to also have a job to do. Make room for younger people, give opportunities for young people to exploit, to exploit the strength of their youth in order to advance the society. So age is an important factor that makes companies decide that, look, I do not think I need this group of people anymore. They are too old. All right. So next we talk about disruption. There are 4 recognized industrial revolutions that we have had in the history of the world. We've talked about the first industrial revolution of 1765, the second industrial revolution of 1870, the third industrial revolution of 1969, and where we are now, so roughly where we are now, Industry 7.0. Now, in the first revolution of 1765, that was the period when we started having mechanization, where people were no longer farming by using hoes and cutlasses, particularly in Europe. We started having tractors. We started having coal power driving things like rail. We started having steam engines. You didn't need horses to pull carriages anymore. You needed steam engines. So that took away some jobs, that changed the course of history, changed the lives of people. In the second revolution, we started having electricity coming up, gas, oil, chemical synthesis of things, and then all sorts of this new energy source called oil began to create new ways of doing things, like the combustion engine, for example. Cars came up. Planes, came up. Forms of transport changed, taking away many jobs, creating new opportunities, just basically disrupting the world. In the third revolution, we started having electronics where we had the transistor radios, where we started talking about microchips, computing, robots started, people started thinking about robotics at early stages. Computing changed things dramatically in the world. And my father-in-law used to tell me the story of how in the 80s in Ghana, he used to work for the duty-free shop, and they brought in a system that could really record the sales in a computer system. They did not need the punch cards anymore. And a lot of people who had that old skill essentially were no longer needed, and they had to be let go. That is the nature of disruptions. That is the nature of revolutions. When something dramatic happens on the earth, positive or negative, some people lose their jobs, some people gain new jobs. People with old skills are no longer required. People with new skills begin to be in demand. We are in the current revolution, fourth industrial revolution of the internet. The internet has changed things dramatically too. It has made the world a smaller place. It has made adoption of technologies faster for even third world countries. It's creating a system where there's some kind of a balance across the strata. People who thought were small boys, they can do something, and suddenly a Mark Zuckerberg could put up a Facebook that will have pastors, imams, industry stalwarts, that will have young people, old people, all aggregating at a common place to try to market their product, to try to socialize, and so on and so forth. Disruptions do that. It changes the way we live our lives, and the internet is such a disruption. Changing the way we make sales, changing the way we teach, changing everything. Some disruptions are negative, like COVID-19. So what COVID-19 has done is to force us to pay attention to the disruption we already were experiencing, which is the internet. A lot of people are now paying attention to social media. A lot of people are paying attention to video conferencing tools. Companies will decide in the near future that, look, we don't really need to travel anymore. We don't need to send people on long trips for trainings and conferences. We can do it online. Companies will decide in the future, we don't need to have hotel bookings. Hotels may go away or be diminished significantly. Airlines may diminish significantly, which is already happening, and so on. Revolutions change the way things are. And when that happens, companies have to decide, do I want to succeed or thrive as a company, or do I want to just keep feeding my staff? They have to decide between your survival and their survival. That is another reason why your boss, your company, your employer may want you out of the way. Liability. You need to ask yourself at some point in your life, can I do without my company? Because if you look at it well, your company can do without you. Can I do without your company, without my company? Is there a skill I have that will help me to be able to survive in this world without my company? Because in the face of crises such as COVID-19, crisis or advancements, positive advancements such as artificial intelligence, such as robotics, such as the internet, such as machine learning, in the light of such strong advancements, and changes, whether positive or negative, someone must die, and that is figurative. Either the company dies or you die, in terms of you lose your job. Either they let you go or they go away. And most organizations, most CEOs, even in the face of that hard decision, will choose for the company to survive. It is a hard decision, but it's a question of survival. Will the antelope live or will the lynx live? It's a matter of survival. There is the story or the adage that came from, I believe it's South Africa, that says that when the lion and the gazelle wake up in the morning, both of them must wake up running, because the lion knows that it needs to have breakfast that morning and it must start running. The gazelle also knows that the lion, that it could become breakfast for the lion, so it must start running. So it's a matter of survival. Will the company die or will you die? So you can't, to the company, you might have become a liability because of changes, because of VUCA, because of disruptions, because of your age. You might have become a liability at the place where you find yourself at, or because of, changes. Recently, banks started introducing the cash deposit machines, cash deposit ATMs, as well as online banking, internet banking, mobile banking, making the role of people like tellers and call center agents irrelevant. There was a story of a certain bank in Nigeria deciding to lay off staff, and they were only stopped because the regulator, the central bank, decided that, look, you cannot lay off anybody at this time. But in effect, in real terms, if you want to look at it clearly, companies have to fire their staff. So they need to think about that. The second thing in this slide is your contribution versus your value. Many people, at the point at which they have given all they can give, and they are not growing. So what happens is they're just waiting for the next payday. So, but when you really think about it, the contributions they are making to the company does not match the money the company is spending on them. It simply doesn't match. So the company knows this, but they have to develop a reason to let you go. They are being nice to you. They are being friendly to you. They have to develop a way for you to let you go, but they are not ready to do that yet. They have to find a reason to do so. So what can you do about it? What are you going to do in the face of this? In the face of this dilemma, so to speak, the dilemmas that we find ourselves with. 4 things, the 4 reasons why your company wants to let you go. 5 things you can do, or 4 things you can do. So I'm going to do an analogy of the story of Joseph and Pharaoh from the Bible. And I'll also talk about that you can sack or you can be sacked. I'll talk about the pyramid, and I'll talk about your friends and you. I want you to hang in there. We've spoken for about 20 minutes, and you may be your patience may be running out on the points, but this is just about halfway. So I want you to hang in there to the points that we're going to make on what steps you can actually take. First of all, I want you to understand that the story of Joseph and Pharaoh tells us about seasons of life. In our life, there are seasons. There is a season of plenty, and there is a season of penury or poverty. Sometimes God gives us the season of plenty so that He can prepare us for the season of poverty. He gives us the ability, the opportunity to prepare. But sometimes we are overwhelmed by hubris and euphoria. Hubris is a false sense of pride. The assumption that one is rich, maybe you're earning 1 million naira or 1 million cedis every month. You think you're rich, but suddenly that salary stops coming and you realize that you have not accumulated any serious capital to sustain yourself. There are many stories of big shots who retired, and after retirement, they had nothing but their pension to depend upon. There are many stories of people that during their lifetime, all their children were doing so well. When they died, their children had nothing to fall back on, no inheritance. And the Bible says that a good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. We often, when we are in the season of plenty, we are we think that there's not going to be that things are going to go on that way for the rest of our lives. It's not always the case. Many things can happen that can suddenly bring in a drought or a famine, and you will have to fall back on whatever you've made out of your season of plenty. So when you are in your season of plenty, very carefully listen. Listen very carefully. When you are in your season of plenty, you need to prepare for the season of poverty, because rather than be overwhelmed by hubris, be prepared for the season of poverty. Some people call it savings and investments. Paul Mante, of a very well-known speaker, speaks about it a lot. Saving 20% of your income, building up a capital base, investing, or starting a business. Not everyone can start a business. But whatever the case may be, make sure you are using the seasons of plenty to prepare for the season of poverty, because they will come. Sack or be sacked? You need to ask yourself these 4 questions. Do you have a vision? Where is your job taking you to? Is it just taking you to retirement? A lot of people, we're not thinking about these things. We're just taking each day as it comes. Work every day, go to work every day, go to work every day. We're not asking ourselves, what am I building up to? Some people have asked themselves those questions and they have decided, okay, I want to become the CEO of this company. Some people have decided, okay, I want to get to the top of my career. But what does that really mean in this day and age? The top of your career. What does it really mean? You need to think about that. Do you have a vision? What are you building up towards? What is your exit strategy? If we needed to get you out of a job now, do you have a plan to land safely outside the job you are used to, outside the level of comfort you're used to? Can you do business? That's a valid question. Can you do business? Do you have the capacity for it? Not everyone has the capacity for business. Not everyone is able to articulate this. You may criticize your bosses, your employer, your HR, but when we give you the baton and say, look, handle this business, can you really do it? First question is, how relaxed are you? Some of us are too relaxed. We think everything will continue to be the way it has always been. If you're too relaxed, you become a victim. Don't be too relaxed. Develop a vision. Plan an exit strategy. Know whether you can do a business or partner with someone to do a business. Don't be too relaxed. Because if you don't find a way to sack your boss will eventually sack you. It could be retirement or it could be just a sudden sack. And that sudden sack is painful. You have children you have to raise, you have to feed your family, and those things become so glaring and apparent when your job, your daily bread is suddenly removed from you. There's a book by a certain gentleman called Who Moved My Cheese? Who Moved My Cheese? So prepare. Prepare for the future. If you have gained enough knowledge to do business on your own, step out and do it. So let's talk about the pyramid. I want to say that everything in this world is a pyramid scheme. Everything. Because the truth is, think about it. What is a pyramid? A pyramid is basically a solid 3-dimensional figure with more space at the bottom than at the top. You can think of it that way. At the top of every pyramid, there is very little space. At the top of your company, there is very little space. Very few people in your company are earning the big bucks. Very few people in governance are earning big bucks. In society, very few people are earning the majority. So the truth is, everything about this present world is a pyramid. There are the big shots at the top and the masses at the bottom. Abraham Maslow summarized something he called the hierarchy of needs in this form. From the bottom, we have basic needs of life. We want to eat every day. As you move up to the top, you see self-actualization. You've gotten everything that we all running after in the rat race, and you now want to give back, or you want to explore what else you can do to be significant on the earth. Everything is a pyramid.